Day two from the College World Series. If you were a fan of pitching, Aaron, this was your day in Omaha. If you look at the first game, Andrew Abbott kind of led the way for Virginia in a 6-0 win over Tennessee. And then we'll talk about the nightcap here in a second. Todd Madden and Will Bednar put on a show. Aaron, let's start with the early game today. Obviously, kind of the storyline was, Tennessee's offense in this ballpark. They obviously had a lot of home runs at home with Lindsey Nelson. But in this ballpark today, I'm not sure it would have mattered either way with the elements or anything, with the way Andrew Abbott was throwing 10 strikeouts and then 6 innings for the talented lefty for Virginia. What did you kind of see from him?
Well, it was just typical Abbott. The stuff is always good, Kendall. I mean, every time there's nobody, I think, who's got more consistent quality of stuff. Every time I see it, it's the same as 91 to 93, touch some fours, downhill with life, spin that really good breaking ball. The changeup actually has gotten better and better. That's the one area, I guess, where I thought that pitch today was really working for him against those right-handed hitters. So, but the other thing that sets them apart is just the experience, the toughness, the poise. We saw that right out of the gate. First inning, Tennessee had a threat, and he was able to minimize and strand, I think, runners in the corners. He stranded runners in scoring position a few times, which it's because he's got really good stuff and he knows how to use it, and he doesn't get panicked at all. He just always has an even keel. That was very impressive because they did put him on the ropes a little bit.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. He was able to kind of command the fastball on the outside corner, both arm side and glove side. So it kind of shows you the zone he was in. Tennessee 0 for 8 today with runners in scoring position. Tennessee isn't used to that. I think the other key, too, when I look at Virginia was it wasn't just Andrew Abbott. I think when you look at the defense at the middle, Nick Kent, Max Codier, you look at Logan Michaels, the job that he did offensively. I mean, once again, it seems like, that their offense in the Super Regional and Regional didn't get off to hot starts in most of those games. But as the innings went on, they kind of got in a groove, and that's kind of what happened today.
And Michaels, certainly one of the big stories of the day in that game, hits his first home run of the season.
Yeah.
Only the second homer of this tournament to left field because the ball had been carrying a lot more to right field than it was to left. But and then he came up with a couple more really good at-bats and a couple of hits later in the game and helped extend that lead for Virginia. But that's a guy, a veteran player who, he's had a lot of competitive at-bats in his career. I mean, and he's a great defensive catcher. He's a very valuable piece. But down there in the 8-hole, he's not one of the guys that you're circling on the lineup card. We've got to stop this guy when we face Virginia. He came through for him. And then in the 9-hole, Chris Newell with a couple of hits, including one really big one there to kind of help extend that lead. So, and they turned it over and kind of got the train rolling in that big 4-run 7th inning with Zach Geloff and Max Codier as well, and Kyle Teal. I mean, this is a totally different lineup. We've talked about it plenty, but it's a totally different lineup than it was before. It's way better than the numbers show. It's perfectly suited for this ballpark. I thought that their lineup was impressive, and I thought they defended very, very well, especially up the middle.
Yeah, you could tell from the post-game press conference, too. Brian O'Connor feels really, really good about this team right now. Like, you can just kind of sense that he feels like this team's got is a little bit of a team of destiny feeling to it.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like 2015.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the same kind of team.
Yeah,
there are differences between the teams. This team didn't have as much previous Omaha experience as Mike Rooney has pointed out.
Yeah.
This team has no previous Omaha experience before this year, except for the coaches.
Mm-hmm.
But the trajectories of the season and the confidence and the way this team is playing now feels very similar.
Yeah, no doubt. So Virginia will move on to face Mississippi State on Tuesday night. Mississippi State, Will Bednar, kind of the storyline going into this game was, Will Bednar was one of those guys that, you wrote about him in the fall when you were in Starkville. We wrote about him earlier this year. He's one of those guys that we've kind of been waiting on him to kind of be that first-round arm. We got a pretty good look at what his first-round arm looks like tonight.
It was just electric, Kendall. And I'll tell you what, it was 15 strikeouts, 1 hit over 6 scoreless innings, just 1 walk, and it was a 3-2 pitch that I thought should have been strike 3. It was close. But I think, for me, that's as good a pitching performance as I can remember at this ballpark in the College World Series. And, part of the reason for that is, you think back to the dead ball, dead bat era, 2013, 14, everybody's throwing shutouts, and everybody, it lost its luster. It wasn't special anymore because, you just pitch to contact, let guys hit the ball up in the air, the wind's going to grab it. It's like a parachute deploys, and it's going to get hung up there in the gap and caught. And so we kind of started to take those for granted. But this is a game where the wind was howling out to center field. And I even tweeted about it before the game started. I said, buckle up. This could be an offensive game today. And I thought it was interesting that Chris Lemonis kind of joked before the game with Bednar. He said, you better strike everybody out, because the wind is blowing. And as a staff, they wound up striking out 21 guys, setting a College World Series record. I mean, just a special pitching performance on a day that was not easy to pitch. And, he said also it was not an easy day to defend.
Yeah, no doubt. Landon Sims struck out 10 Texas batters the last time he faced the Longhorns. So Sims came out of the bullpen tonight, struck out 6 in 3. He's got a little hairy there in the night, but Sims was able to kind of close it out for him. He was kind of defending himself.
And credit Texas for battling. Late in that game, they didn't roll over. They did mount a threat there in the ninth. It's one thing to just get a solo home run and then go down, but they get a solo home run and then they got a couple more base runners. You got the tying run 90 feet away, and this is a subtle thing that I think will get overlooked, but the play that Scotty DeGroote made in the game was actually a tricky play. It was one of those like spinning cappers. He had to be patient on it and wait for it to come to him, and he played it very well. He's a veteran guy at second base. Trickier play than it looked to end that game.
Yeah, so the two teams combined for 33 strikeouts. So that means that somebody else on the Texas side had a lot of strikeouts too. Ty Madden, kind of the hard luck loser tonight. 10 strikeouts, only allowed 2 runs in 7 innings. That's a really good outing on the stage. Yet he lost the game. Just kind of your thoughts on Ty Madden. I've seen him enough, so I want your thoughts.
Yeah, he was awesome. This is my first time seeing him in person. Because that's your neck of the woods. I'm not allowed in the state of Texas.
The Republic, man.
The Republic. It was great. It was, 94 to 97. He held that velocity. Like Bednar, he did a really good job elevating the fastball, getting, swing and miss up in the zone. Slider was awesome, as it always is. ESPN had a great graphic on their telecast today. I think opponents, at least at the time of that graphic, opponents were hitting like 105 against his slider this year with no home runs. I mean, it's bonkers how dominant that pitch can be. But you know what? The big swing of the game there was a slider that he hung. That Brad Cumbus, hit the other way into the right field corner for an RBI double. So I thought that was interesting. That's his go-to bread and butter pitch, and that's what he got beat on. He just didn't execute that particular pitch.
Yeah, so overall, Mississippi State wins 2-1 over Texas. It was kind of interesting when you look at Mississippi State's offense. Riley Jordan with a pair of hits. Chris Lemonis made a comment in the post-game presser that he kind of told Tanner Allen, like, hey, are you going to help us out today? He goes 0 for 4. Any day to Tanner Allen goes 0 for 4, and you still get a win. It's a good day for Mississippi State. So we'll have Mississippi State against Red Hot Virginia on Tuesday night. Then we'll have the battle of the UTs, Texas against Tennessee, in an elimination game on Tuesday. So somebody's going home. But go ahead.
There are going to be 2 very good teams that go home in the next 2 days, because we got that Stanford-Arizona matchup in the loser's bracket, and then we got Texas-Tennessee. I mean, wow. How about this, Kendall? Every team here was the number 1 seed in the regional, a national, one of the 16 national seeds, except for the 2 ACC teams. NC State was a 2 seed. Virginia was a 3 seed. Those 2 teams both kind of dominate their first games. They win them each by 6 runs apiece. ACC teams sitting pretty here along with those 2 SEC powerhouses. Yeah,
it's kind of funny. We look back at Selection Monday, and a lot of people thought, well, Notre Dame doesn't deserve a top 8 seed because they're in the ACC. They won that league by 5 games, but the ACC is just not very good. So far in this tournament, granted, it's only 2 days, but the ACC looking very good.
And just to finish that thought, we pounded the drum for probably the entire first, half of the season. We were probably right there with them saying, hey, I think the ACC is mediocre. And the reason for that was because NC State and Virginia and Duke all got off to lousy starts. And we thought those were 3 of the best teams. And if those teams were in the dumps, it just kind of hurt the entire perception of the league. But once those 3 teams all got hot, it changed everything. All of a sudden, as we headed into the NCAA tournament, I thought they have some teams that actually could make some noise and could get to Omaha and could win it. And State and Virginia were right there at the top of the list, and they really, they played great.
Yeah, no doubt. So speaking of the ACC, we'll have some time to catch our breath later tonight. Then tomorrow night we've got Jack Leiter against NC State. Boy, that's going to be a lot of fun. But that's all for tonight. Aaron's got to get to work on his bedtime masterpiece. Go ahead.
And thanks to our friends at Wilson. We got our
yeah.
Evo Shield hats on here. All of our postseason content, of course, sponsored by those people. Stop by the Wilson house over at the Omaha Baseball Village. It's awesome. We got so much good gear there. Just for the photos alone that they got, the signage in that place is awesome. They did a really good job with that booth.
Yeah, there's no doubt. So we'll be back tomorrow morning at 10:30 sharp or 10:45, one of the two times, to put our predictions together for tomorrow's games. But again, tomorrow we've got a Pac-12 showdown, Arizona against Stanford, and then the nightcap we've got Jack Leiter against hard-hitting NC State. So we'll be back tomorrow. Everybody have a good night.